You read it right. Momentum on the trail for Florida State at the 5-star level. That's what we're talking about here today on Warchant TV. He's Michael Langston, senior recruiting analyst for Warchant.com. My name is Tom Lang. Hit the thumbs up underneath this video as we provide you an update on Florida State creating real, tangible momentum for a 5-star linebacker on the trail. Michael, how's it going today? And let me know what's going on with Florida State here and linebacker Xavier Griffin.
Yeah, doing well. Glad to be on, Tom. Yeah, 5-star linebacker Xavier Griffin visited FSU in the spring, so certainly one that knows the staff very well. JP John Papoots is doing a great job as far as handling, a lot of that recruitment. I think Tony White has also been an impact as far as in that recruitment, along with Mike Norvell. I think that's a guy that they've certainly had on campus, but I think at the same time, really developed a great relationship and a great fit of kind of what their plans are with him. I think that's one of the things of why when he narrowed his list down to a top 5, which on based on Chad Simmons' report, you felt like they've done a really good job as far as selling what the pitch was and how his fit would be into this program. Obviously, a 5-star linebacker. I think everyone would take that for sure, but I think overall, from a relationship standpoint and from a scheme and fit standpoint, I think I think Xavier's loved what he's seen with FSU, and even in the spring there was a really good connection with the staff that seemed really personal, but also from a ethics standpoint and from a professional standpoint of for how he fit there and how early he could possibly get on the field. I think that's a big deal too to a guy like Xavier. That I think that's maybe something that FSU could offer that maybe is a little bit stronger than a lot of these other schools that are in the mix like Alabama and Ohio State.
So this is a situation, Michael, because of what Florida State was able to do at the end of last signing period. We've talked so much about the transfer portal in between, but it's worth going back and looking at Florida State was able to flip a lot of high-profile players, not the least of which was Tylon Lee, who was an on-3 5-star from an SEC country and Ole Miss. Coming off a 2-10, you have to invest heavily to be able to pull that off. Your NIL game has to be strong. That Florida State has landed an official visit for this player tells me that whatever NIL presentation they're going to give to Xavier, it's legitimate because they're having to compete with the best of the best if they're going to land this player.
Absolutely. I think they put a lot of time in this one. I think they put a lot of time NIL wise, and I think from a financial standpoint, but also, but just adding guy that they feel like not just you want, but you need in this defense because linebackers are certainly a significant need. I think Rodney Colton, T.J. White are 2 other guys that are 4-star prospects that they certainly want in this class. So I think overall it's a place they want to nail down. As I said before, beginning, JP's done a really good job of helping out. So is Tony White, and I think really it's just about selling those keys when you get them on the official visit, where you really can sell everything. From the culture fit to the comfort level as far as being around Tallahassee. I like the fact that he's already been here for a spring visit. To me, that is almost essential before you do these official visits to get 2 visits in. I think it's a big deal for a lot of these official visits when I look at and break down who's doing what, who where do you stand and stuff like that. So I think major development of him reopening that recruitment. Sounds like Southern Cal did some things that kind of screwed that up to open things up, and I'm certainly FSU's happy to oblige to be in the picture and now have an official visit that's set for June 15th.
Yeah, again, you're right. If somebody else stumbles, you got to be ready to pounce. And for Florida State here, it looks like they've done just that because it's one of the last visits, if not the last official visit that he has at least committed to right now.
Right.
This is a huge potential moment for Florida State, Michael, because, I'm looking at some of those highlights that we were just running, and he lines up on the line of scrimmage as kind of an edge rusher, and then he'll line up as a traditional linebacker. Well, we've got to get used to this with Tony White's defense, that he asks multiple things of a player. He asked them to line up in different places. So that, I'm sure, it has to be attractive to a player like Xavier Griffin, who's extremely athletic, that he can show off a lot of versatility in the scheme, whereas the Adam Fuller scheme was kind of more cookie cutter. You were going to be doing one thing and one thing only.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to my thoughts on the attraction of why I think it's a big deal. Wrote a story on about it yesterday on warchant.com. It's pinned at the top where it's a lot about, scheme wise. The stuff has to, I mean, the NIL stuff, the scheme, but the scheme really has to fit what you want to do and what you want to be comfortable with in a defense like that. And with a guy like Tony White, who's a linebacker guy, man, nothing attracts a recruit more than when you see a coordinator either on offense or defense that is a former uh, position coach at the position that you play, like Tony White, where he's a former linebackers coach. So I think that's very attractive. I think it's very attractive the way they'll use him. As you see, blitzes, certainly tackling in space, but just a lot of different attributes to what FSU does with their linebackers in this defense now is going to be, certainly stand out. And I think everyone, including myself and probably Tom, are itching to see what this defense looks like with not just linebackers, but just overall of how they look when you piece it all together when they suit up against Alabama on that kickoff game.
Yeah, I'm curious. And that's the one thing about him coming back to your point, that if you visit a place one time, that makes sense. It's curiosity. You want to know what it's all about. But if you come back a second time, you've already had your curiosity part of the equation satisfied. But you also want to come back again. That means that there is a legitimate potential fit and legitimate interest. Before we sign off on this video, Michael, I do want to ask about John Papuchis, who has moved from, recruiting specifically defensive end, and he was Florida State special teams coordinator. I get there's also territories that you recruit to, but just, John Papuchis, linebacker has been, and you've pointed this out many times, that's one of his bread and butter positions in terms of his history as a coach. How about his influence on the recruiting trail now, recruiting to that specific position instead of defensive line? What have you heard about him?
I think you've already seen that it's better. We've talked about T.J. White and Roddy Colton. I think FSU is a major player in both of those. Certainly, a top coveted choice that he could end up there. I think getting a guy for official visit that's a 5-star certainly speaks to that. And I think overall it's a more comfort zone for JP. Because that's a place that he's always been. I could tell just from the body language when he's been recruiting linebacker that there's a lot of excitement from him. So I think it's a fantastic move for both sides. I think it's very smart. A lot of people want like all new stuff all the time, but it's like sometimes you haven't got things in your staff that is natural for them to coach a position. And then you add in that Tony White's a former linebackers coach. I think it's a perfect fit of kind of what they're going to do. And overall, I think he's settling in really nice. In this particular recruitment, I think FSU, I think Alabama, Ohio State, those have been some of the teams that I've heard consistently, mentioned in this recruitment outside of the stuff with Southern Cal. Now it will be a battle because those are some top teams, but I think I like what I saw kind of the news we know that FSU was the last official visit. To me, I mean that's kind of stuff you like to see.
Right, and for Florida State to be able to go toe to toe with those named programs coming off a 2-10 season, like that means that there's a lot of factors at play that Florida State is going all in on this type of a player. So it's going to be fun to document, fun to watch. Yeah. Michael Langston will be doing the documenting of that recruitment. That comes up at official visit just in a few short weeks. Head over to warchant.com, the premium recruiting board. Sign up today if you're not a member. It's $1 for your first week. You'll be able to go to the premium recruiting board or over to the tribal council and interact with the largest FSU fan base in the business. And also, here is an exciting promo for all of you out there. This is really cool. If you just made your way to the glorious campus that is Florida State University, and you are a student of Florida State University, we are now offering a completely free student membership to you. No credit card required. Hear that again. No credit card required. All you've got to do is email support@warchant.com from your FSU student email address to get started. We want to welcome you to the community. We want to welcome you to Nole Nation, and we want to provide you the best coverage of Florida State sports in the industry. So if you're a student or you're about to be next semester for the fall, Here's how you do it. You sign up. You just email support@warchant.com. We'd love to have you aboard for absolutely free. Michael, always appreciate the time, and I guess we'll be welcoming some students to the fold here on the boards pretty soon.
Yeah, that's a fantastic deal too. If I know any students that are going to be students, I wish I was still a student or I had somebody that I knew a student. Certainly going to push for that deal. I mean, that's a great deal, guys. So yeah, they're going to be welcome students soon. We get a lot of these summer guys that are coming in, so a lot more excitement coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a lot of excitement as we transition to the official visits and these summer enrollees coming on board.
Usman Kroma, you want a free membership? You got it. All you got to do is email us and everybody else that's joining at Florida State's campus. All right, we'll keep tabs on what Florida State does with 5-star linebacker Xavier Griffin. Michael, we appreciate the time, as always.
You got it.